folks, I'm L.A. Little and this is your daily TA wrap. Where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective, each time asking ourselves what happened today. And what does it tell us about the coming days? I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of what was a hailstorm afternoon in the Rocky Mountains. We've had some crazy weather here and we've got some crazy markets in front of us. Last night we were talking about the setup. Lo and behold, Dow Jones up 94 points, 16,831.5. S&P's tack on 12 and a quarter, 1940. Composite up 43 and 3/4 at 42.95 and 3/4. NDX 32 3/4 higher, 37.76. The Russell leads the pack almost 2% higher today, 22 points, 1153.27. The Russell confirms it all. Last week, test the last 2 days, was once again the index giving us the signals, telling us, along with some other things, that today probably was going to be a buy, not a sell the news. And that is in fact what happened today. We actually had some odd trading in that the dollar traded lower today by 1/3% on the news that, well, what are we going to say here on ECB? I mean, we had all kinds of news out of the ECB. They cut their deposit rate to a negative rate on what the banks get on an overnight loan, or not an overnight loan, but depositing with the ECB overnight. They cut their refinancing rates down to 0.15. They cut their, they stopped their sterilization of bond purchases, which is an inflationary measure. They're starting up their preparation. They're ramping it up for their asset-backed security, hello QE. And they're also doing targeted LTROs now. I mean, my goodness, you talk about a package. Yet these markets, if you looked at them this morning, it wasn't clear that they were actually going to trade off of it. We started down. This is today's trade. We started down this morning. They sold it off, and then lo and behold, straight up rally. There was a couple things that came in, but it was a straight up rally, and it was a hold until the close. So a big push indeed. On the commodities, we had gold up $10, we had silver up. Again, almost up everything across the board. Bonds were up, so forth. So big rally. Can you say, here we go again? Because that is what's going on. Let's go look at the charts. I've got a lot of questions already queued up. If you do have questions, you want to send them to me, support@tatoday.com. I'll answer your questions if I have time. You can also text me, 303-912-9110. Okay, so, and we'll leave the soapbox stuff for another day, but, I do want to make one point before I go to the charts, and that is that, we've had this ZIRP, right, the zero interest rate policy here at the Fed across the world. Now we're getting something, maybe we'll call it NIRP, negative interest rate policy across at least the Eurozone. And folks, if you think about the financial fabric and how everything is so interrelated, it's not beyond reason to assume that at some point these central bankers are going to overstep it, right, and make a mistake, because believe me, everybody's always angling to do something, and there's unintended consequences when you start doing these things. Are the banks really, the intention here, of course, is if you can't deposit the money with us overnight, we're going to charge you to do it. Then more than likely they're not going to do that. But does that mean they're going to make riskier loans? Does that mean they're going to finance something else? What does that mean? Are they going to loan to themselves? I don't know what it means. But whatever it means, there's going to be probably some unintended consequences as a result of it. We're stepping into a whole new territory here. But right now, hey, doesn't matter, right? I mean, we're going up. Here's the S&P 500, breaks out again. Remember, we were talking about a consolidation. It could break out, get a little volume escalation as well, pushing on to new highs. S&P is the only one that hasn't set up a bullish ABCD structure. Now, we have seen bullish ABCD structures across the board today starting to set up, and we're going to see it in the rest of the indexes. So let's pop over and start looking at those. So Dow Jones, if we look at the Dow sets up ABCD structure. This thing measures up to looks like about 17,100 almost. So AB, and if you're playing along with me here, I'll draw one or two of these in. But essentially, you're coming off these lows, you're moving up to the first high where we get a pullback, and then you stretch it on up. So 17, what is that? 300 more points. 300 more to go on the Dow. And then you're going to see this same thing across the board here. The Nasdaq Composite. Now remember, the Nasdaq was actually playing with this breakdown bar. Hurdles it like there was nothing to it. Remember, it had consolidated here for about 7 days after it had done multiple swing point breaks down here. Right, nice way to consolidate, breakout, ABCD structure now here to the top side, just barely got one in place. That one stretches higher, another 3% or so, stretches to 39.16. If you're a member, you can see these numbers, of course, on my boards. If you just go to the shared watch list, I put them in there for you, so you can go grab the numbers for yourself. NDX, same thing, stretches higher, another ABCD structure here, and this one also measures up another 3% or so higher. So we've got big numbers across the board. Did I say 39.16 on the IXIC? I think that's wrong. Let me go look at that again. Yeah, that's wrong. It's actually much higher. It's 45 something. So anyway, I had the wrong number there. Got too happy with my typing before I got on the air here. So going back to the NDX right quick. So the NDX, also ABCD structure in place. This one also can move higher. We've got the Russell. Now the Russell was the leader. Remember, the Russell was the only one giving us a signal the last 2 days, because the Russell, and what we were talking about there, in case you missed it, Russell was coming back into this bar, tested into it 3 days in a row, could not take it out, volume lower, right? That was telling us it wanted to try to go higher. What does it do today? Breaks out, gets over another swing point high. It's going for this area first, but it's probably not going to stop there. ABCD structure in place here, starting at this price point, back down and up. Takes it up, actually takes it up into this area, about 1170. Russell wants to go higher. NDX, all the indexes want to go higher. Same story. And if we go over and look at, and I'm not going to go through all these because I got other things I got to try to get to tonight. But you can see it. Let's just pick one or two of these. We'll take the XLB, XLF, a few of these others, stretching higher, right? Trades down, stretches higher. XLF. Remember the XLF, we're getting rotation is the point of showing these. But you've got ABCD structures in a number. Here's the XLF, breaks out over the highs, right? Over that 4-4 bar it was trying to get over. The XLF, if it gets over, looks like 2265, which is this price point, and it just about did it today. There it is, 2265, sitting at it. Doesn't have the volume, but it's up there, right? Go across the board, all of them are doing the same thing. XLY, XLV, they're all going back to the old highs. They're all breaking out. They're all got, or many of them have ABCD structures in place now. Nothing wrong with what's happening in the sectors. One thing I would note is there is the potential that we could get a 2-bar reversal on some of these. I don't know that we're going to get that right away, but it is possible. You can look at it Friday, Monday, both of them going to have lighter volume days. Next week there's not much going on. I think you're going to see a pullback in here somewhere, but it probably is just going to be a small pullback that sets up another move to the upside. If we look at the ox markets, let's go look at what happened here, because this is where all the fireworks really were today. FXE. And I saw a lot of talk about the FXE in the trading room today. Had a huge volume bar down here, reverses and goes back to highs. So I didn't mention it in the room. I was too busy with other stuff today. But when you see something like this, and you see a huge volume bar like that, right, and this thing happens to reverse and go back up, the first thing you want to do is you want to realize that anytime you do that, you're probably going to come back down there, right? Because you just left a bunch of volume down there. And that doesn't mean you're going to trade right back down there. Matter of fact, it means you probably won't. But you will come back down there more than likely. So you're going to get a bounce out of it first, and what's that going to do? It's going to come back into swing point low. It's going to do a retest regen. So that's the first place that you can actually see what the test is going to look like, and that's where it's going to come. Now, it was more than 6 bars down here, so it only has to test the bottom of this and actually retreat. Didn't quite get to it today, so it didn't hit it with volume, but it's coming at it with volume. So tomorrow you'll probably see the test, you'll probably see it go into that bar, and you'll be able to measure it up. That's what neoclassical does. It says there's always test. The market is about test. And so what you want to do is you want to pick out those price points where the tests are important, and then see how it trades, because that gives you information, right, about what's going to happen next. So the FXE, as we know, you would have thought it would trade lower today, but it did and then flipped around. Well, why is that? Well, this thing just went down huge, right? And so, and I didn't do the numbers here, but I suspect it probably had an ABCD structure, and it looks like it was to here, back up. Didn't quite complete, but you know, it had an ABCD structure in place, tried to complete it, didn't quite get to it, so it gets delayed, right? Bounces up. Because you have one-to-one ABCD structures doesn't mean it's going to always meet them. They're guidelines. They're places that you can measure against, right? They're projections. The next thing you ought to do is go look at the weekly. Don't look at just the daily. So what is the weekly doing? Well, the weekly is coming back into a couple big bars itself, hitting them with volume. So that weekly here, we got 131.74. We got down into it. There was 2 of them there together. It kind of got into those, and there's a bunch of them over here. So it looks to me like it, you know, it got a little bounce out of it. I think it was just overextended on the time frame. But as it comes back up, it's going to be coming back into this bar, 134.97. We're already at 134.81, and again, 134.97 is going to bring you into the bottom of this area. That's going to be the real test. Let's see what it does. We may not get any farther than there. So that's the euro. The dollar may flip around as a result of that. The dollar came back today, so it popped over the top, back down, big reversal. Volume was pretty good though, so that says it will probably go back up there itself. That's the euro, that's the dollar. So currencies, of course, we're going to move today no matter what. But you actually had another strange situation as gold flips around and heads up, you know, gaps up and heads higher. Now gold doesn't look like it's going anywhere. It's just a bounce, and it's just a bounce after an extended move, right? We got more than 3 bars on that move down, you know, 6 bars now. It can come back up and do a retest regen off of that low. I don't know if it's going to make it because it's got to get over this area first. So gold, so what, bounces a little bit. If we look at the, you know, I don't have anything else to say about gold. If we look at the TLT, the bonds had already overextended to the downside. They were coming into a big sign of strength here in terms of what they were hitting, right? There were like 2 overlapping areas here off these 2 bars. That's going to be very hard to break down. And that's exactly what happens. It goes into it, can't break it down. It came into it with volume, then volume, what? Disappears. There's no more sellers at the lower price. That's what you're always trying to measure. Are they going to keep selling at lower and lower prices or not? They're not. At least not yet. So what does that mean? It's going to flip back up here now, and what is it going to do? It's going to test this area of strength, and potentially if it can get through that, because it's been in a bullish trend, then it can go back up higher and get back into this little zone. So you have a zone here, you have another zone there. There's going to be two sets of pressure points on the way back up. So don't expect a huge bounce out of bonds, but do expect it to try to come back up into that area and test it. And that's where it will release more information. That's where we'll find out more about what it wants to do. I didn't take a look at the overseas markets, but we know they're all at highs. We know Europe was up today, although Europe didn't extend. Europe closes. Think about it this way. It's like the Fed reporting here, or releasing their notes, and then you don't have but a little time to trade on them. Same thing in Europe. Tomorrow we'll see what Europe wants to do in terms of the German market, the French market, and actually it'll be interesting to see what the FTSE does, because the FTSE actually is facing the same sort of thing that we're doing, and that is that they've got to start taking their foot off the pedal. They haven't done it yet, but it looks like they're starting to think that way. All right, a lot of questions queued up. Let me try to take some of these, and then I'll come back with whatever time I have. So let me pop over to my temp directory here, and I just typed all these in. So let me start with them one by one. So we've got AAV, and let me find what the question was. It says it hit new highs today. If one were to buy here thinking an ABCD pattern could take place, where would one place the stop? Well, you don't have an ABCD pattern yet, and I assume you're saying that it, maybe we'll put one in at some point. Where would you put your stop? Well, actually, the TA Today charts are giving you a good spot, and they're gonna redraw tonight for you anyway, based on this breakout. So remember, anytime you break out, the first thing you have to worry about is the retest regen and how fast it comes back. Your retest regen is off the prior swing point high. When you look at it, you're also looking at what else is happening on the chart. You actually have a huge volume bar here, right, which actually coincides in that same area, right? So you actually have the same area here, right, that's inside that retest regen zone, and it happens to line up with the lows today. So you've got several indications right here telling you this area that I've kind of highlighted, this area is critical. So if my stop's going to go, I'm going to do an ATR off of this, right? I'm going to go over to my, I'll pull it up real quick. I would go over to my tools, I'd pull up the trading cube, I'd get my 10-day ATR for this stock, whatever it is, then I'd do 25% off of that, and I forgot the symbol already. What is it, AAV? I'd do 25% off of that, or 20% depending on what you want to do. So I'd come over and grab this, and it's only 20 cents, so it's not that big. So, maybe it's 5 cents, and the bottom is 6.40, so I'd put my stop at, 6.33 or something. Should not go back down there, right? That gives you where the area is. If you wanted to be more conservative, you could take the low and then take 6 cents off of it, so it's 6.25. But somewhere in there, somewhere between 6.25 and 6.34. Next question, Cake and Dave. Intermediate term time frame. Let's see what these guys look like. So Cake is, that's the food joint. What is it called? Cheesecake. Okay, so Cheesecake's doing an ABCD up. These are all over the charts today, right? They're everywhere. And I would expect that a lot of these are going to complete. And that's on this time frame. You're asking about another time frame. Let me see. So yeah, your ABCD, it looks like it's from here up. So that's a pretty good stretch. That probably takes it up to about 49, which is the highs. Let's look at it on the weekly, which is the question. And so on the weekly, the question is short-term time frame. So what do I think about it? Well, because you got the ABCD structure up, if you can get over this bar, you're gonna go up to these highs. And so this bar is 46.81. You're at 46.70. See if it gets over them. If it does, right? I mean, that's the test. If it gets over them, it's gonna go higher. It's gonna do that ABCD structure that you see on the short-term chart. Another one asked about here is Dave, which is Dave and Famous Dave's of America, which is the hamburger place. Actually, I kind of like their hamburgers, though I don't eat hamburgers for the most part. A nice volume build up here. This is on the weekly. This is actually a very nice chart, and we've seen some good action in this sector. Yeah, this looks pretty good. So you got to break over the swing point high. You had it on volume, so you got a solid breakout. I don't like this particular bar. I don't know what caused that. I'd probably go back and do a little bit of research to see what it was. But you got an ABCD structure here that's in place. Looks like it's going to take it higher. Let's see what the daily looks like. Yeah, this looks fine. This is going higher. So that one looks fine. Next one, USCR. Let's see what USCR looks like. Question here is from the low 20s area to about 25. Is this a tradable range? Yeah, but why mess with it? I mean, there's a lot better charts than this one. I wouldn't mess with it. Yeah, there is a range there, but I think there's better charts. I just don't see much in that chart. So that one I don't think much about. Questions up here on the boards. Feedy, my man. Feedy wants to know about Goog. He's been asking about it. He's all anticipating. Sweat running off his brow. All right, you got over the bar, Feedy. So you got over the key area. So it looks like an ABCD structure starting to take place here, right, from here up. So if it can, of course, clear the B point, then you'd have that happening. You got a big strong set of bars up here. That's the real test, is right here, right, these bars. So we'll see if it can get over it. But yeah, it's starting to look like it's going to try to, regain its momentum and get back up here and at least test this next resistance zone. And if it gets over this price point, of course, it is an ABCD structure on the way up. One thing I didn't mention that, because you'd already bought it, Feedy is a member of the site. I actually like Google better, GOGL. It just looks like a stronger stock to me. So that's my preference, but they're both set up basically the same way. The other question is dry ships. Let's go see what dry ships looks like. So this is a bulk tanker. Breaks over 3 swing point highs today. I'm pretty sure the short interest is heavy in this guy. Let me see what it looks like. Because you have to be careful, because a lot of times these spikes on these kinds of stocks, it's not that heavy, 2.7. Yeah, this is the one everybody jumps in when the bulk shippers start moving. So, it got 2 days, nice push, some volume behind it. It looks to me like it's going to test the next resistance zone, and it's got 3 swing points it breaks over today. That says it should extend 2 to 3 bars on this time frame, right? So 2 to 3 bars extension probably takes you up into at least the top of this resistance zone. Let me see what the weekly looks like real quick. Yeah, it's just not much here, but it can take you up there. So that low is 369. That's where the real resistance is going to be. That's way up here. So yeah, I think you can get a move to the next swing point high, or at least into this resistance, maybe up to there. And if the market keeps moving, this one will move. 369. I think 350 to about 370 is as much as you can expect. But yeah, it's set up well here. Next one's Okay, about 4 minutes. Maybe I'll get to them all. LSTR. Let's see what we got on this guy. And what are you trying to do? You're trying to buy them, I suspect. So, yeah, it's a nice fade in. Well, the volume came in pretty heavy, though. Let me see. What is this? 63, 64. Yeah, it tests into the high. You guys know the drill, right? Test into the highs, doesn't have the volume, flips around, it's going to go back up. And if you look at it on the weekly, it looks great. So I don't see anything wrong with it. You got an ABCD structure in place on the weekly, and it looks to me like it's going to extend. Next one, MFRM. And what do we got here? So Mattress Firm. This one's very cluttered. I don't like this one nearly as well. There's just A, it's a little bit thin, and B, it's very cluttered, a lot of spiky type action. So I try to stay away from those kinds of charts. I don't really trade them. So I don't really have much to tell you on that one. Sonus, SONS is the next one. This is a networking stock. They do a lot of voice recognition. And let's see here. So on the weekly, that's a harder call on this one. Yeah, this is one I think you just have to be patient and let it break out first. I like the company, I like what they produce, but I just don't see it yet. You know, you want to break out above these highs, right? Because that would be a breakout on the weekly and the daily, and if you can get that, then you got something going. So I would just be patient and watch it. The last one here is SYPR. I'm not familiar with this. What is this? Cifra Solutions. Is this a let me see what this is. Looks like it's in the XLY, so it's discretionary, consumer discretionary. Wow, that's a nice looking volume buildup. I don't know what these guys are doing, but this is a takeoff chart. Okay, so you pressed from originally from $3 to $5.90, so it's a 100% move in 6 weeks. I don't know, man. When I see something like that, I know I'm going to get burned if I buy it. So I almost always wait for some sort of a retrace. So what I would do with that one, right before I run out of time here, SYPR, is I would go to this chart. Excuse me. I would go to a intraday chart, put it on 30 minutes, and start looking for places. You have to trade this one off the intraday charts, because I don't think you can trade it off the dailies. So if you want to trade it, I would intraday trade it, and what I would do is I would come look for areas that make sense to buy, like here and like here, right? And then I would use those areas as ways to get into this thing and just day trade it. If you have time to day trade it. If you're wanting a week, if you're wanting to swing trade it, I think you got to wait on a retrace. I think there's way too much risk. All right, I'm out of time. We were talking about the potential for a breakout. We got the breakout. Now it's a question of how far do they want to extend it before they give us a retrace. They will give us a retrace. One has to look for that. I think tomorrow and Monday, you got the employment number tomorrow. I think those are the best 2 days for the retrace to set up and actually start to try to come back. Next week's going to be a quiet week in terms of news, so I would think a retrace next week would make sense. Given how we broke out today, unless that employment number is horrible tomorrow, I expect they're going to extend it tomorrow. Watch to see if that Friday afternoon selling comes in. If they do leave a 2-bar reversal, that could get the retrace started maybe Monday, Tuesday next week, right? I don't think it's going to be deep, though. That's where my head is. That's what I'm thinking. Folks, thanks so much for joining me. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is, and it was, your daily TA wrap. Have yourself a great night. Take care of yourself until next time. Take care. Good night, folks.